Yeah, we have 5 seasons here in the state of Michigan. We have autumn, winter, spring, summer, and construction season. And construction season kind of spreads across all 4 of the others. So it's a tough time.
So with that, let's bring in Craig Bryson, our good friend over at the Oakland County Road Commission, the Senior Communications Manager. Do people love you or do people hate you?
It depends on who you're talking to and which road they live along.
Right? Because I always think, like, these poor road construction people, because everyone gets so frustrated. Well, it's not their fault.
Right. We get frustrated, too. We have to drive in it as well.
See? You know what? I think that right there should be your PR campaign. We have to drive through construction, too, because every time you would go up to that sign, I would kind of chuckle and be like, okay, yeah, they do.
Yep.
Hello, who is it? We're in the middle of an interview. Hey, Craig, if I can ask you, because of all this weather we've been having and all of the rain, does that set you and your team behind on some of the construction that you're doing?
It does. It certainly does on a number of levels. Asphalt can't be put down when the soil is too wet or when the material is too wet. In some places, the ground has been so saturated that the crews have not been able to work. And of course, just having the equipment out in torrential downpour doesn't work well. So it's the weather's been very challenging this year.
It has been, but with that as well, I have to ask, because there are so many times that you go through a construction site and it's like the weekend and the lane is still down to 1 lane, but yet no one's there working. Why is that?
And again, that depends
you get that
on
again
the
all the time, don't you?
I do. And I see the same thing and sometimes scratch my head as well. But a lot of times for the major projects, it's more than just a couple barrels out there. And it can be a couple of things. Number one, it can be that there's so many barrels that it would take an entire day to take them down and set them back up, and that loses precious construction time. Or two, it can be that they put down new concrete, and the concrete takes a week to 10 days sometimes to cure, depending on the concrete and the temperatures, that kind of thing. So they'll put the concrete down. They have to just get out of the way and let it cure. And it looks like nothing is happening, but you cannot use that concrete until it is fully cured and reaches strength. So that's part of the issue as well.
What is that time frame like?
Well, it really varies. They have different types of concrete. There are certain types of concrete we can use in an emergency situation that cures much faster. But we prefer to use, the more longer lasting concrete. That does take longer, but it depends on the temperatures outside. It depends on the humidity rates. And we just have to test the concrete to see if it's what they call reach strength. And our testing division has technology that allows them to do that, so they can go out and test it and say, okay, now it has reach strength. We can drive on it. They can open the lanes up. They can't open the lanes until they're properly striped, because we don't want people driving on a brand new section of concrete and not knowing where the lanes are and getting in crashes because there are no lane markings there.
Well, we're doing that in wintertime all the time.
Unfortunately, we are sometimes forced to do that. That's true.
So, Craig, though, I do sometimes, and again, we have this conversation like with friends all the time. It's like we can send billionaires into space, but we cannot figure out how to come up with some type of product that doesn't have to be replaced every few years that we drive on, because road construction is such a nightmare.
Well, we do know how to do that. We have the knowledge. The problem is the money. Apparently, this country is willing, or the private industry is willing, to invest billions in going to space and not so much willing to invest taxpayer dollars in the roads. We know exactly how to build a road that would last a lot longer. It has to do with the depth of the concrete, the depth of the base, the drainage structures, but it's very expensive. So oftentimes we're forced to, make compromises to build roads that we can afford to build. And it comes down to us as taxpayers and what we're willing and what our representatives in the state and federal legislatures are willing to spend on our behalf. And that's a challenge we face all the time. It's a discussion we have with our legislators all the time, that this should be a priority. Our roads are critical to everything we do in this country, whether it's industry, commerce, quality of life, school, you name it. We can't do it without good roads, and yet we in this country do not invest in our roads like many other countries do. And what you see is the result of that investment level.
So we keep putting a Band-Aid on it. Are you hopeful, though, with all this federal stimulus money coming to the state of Michigan? Is it going to help us fund some of these projects, or are you just getting a little piece of the pie?
Well, we hope we get some. So far, we haven't gotten any because we're not a direct recipient of it. The legislature, there's a bill in Lansing right now that would direct some of that money to us, and that would be great. But it's got to go through the state legislature and be signed by the governor. We're also talking to Oakland County. The county is a direct recipient. We're a separate unit of government. We're not a direct recipient. The county could channel a little bit of their money towards us, and we're kind of hoping they'll do that as well. In the meantime, there's, at the federal level, there's discussion of a new infrastructure package, as I'm sure you're aware, and we're hoping that goes somewhere. But every couple of years, there's a discussion of a big infrastructure package in Washington, and sadly, many times it doesn't go anywhere, or doesn't turn out to be nearly what was originally discussed.
So with that, Craig, if you can kind of explain to us, I know we've had this discussion before, but for people when we come across these road projects, a lot of times it's hard to determine which ones are state, local, and county. And then is federal on top of that as well?
Well, there is no such thing as a federal road. There's federal road funding that goes to all levels of roads, but the feds don't actually own any roads except in national parks or national forests. Other than that, all the roads you see are either state, local, or county. But it is very difficult. The state roads are all the I, M, or US routes. So, M24, I-75, I-696, US 24. Those are all state roads. Woodward, which is M1, Telegraph, which is US 24.
What about the mile roads? 10 mile, 9 mile?
It gets confusing. Essentially, we have, in most cases, virtually every other mile road, 8, 10, 12, 14, and the local communities have the ones in between in the cities and villages. Now, there's also 21 townships in Oakland County, and townships by state law do not have jurisdiction over any roads. So those mile roads in the townships fall under the Road Commission's jurisdiction.
Okay, who came up with this formula?
The state legislature many years ago.
Well, that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, because it does get really confusing for so many people.
Absolutely.
And this is why. So with that, if we can talk about some of the road closures here in Oakland County, I will say I just don't get the Orchard Lake one that reroutes me. I can get through coming to work right there by Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
Right.
But going home, you have to go all the way around. It's about a 5-mile detour.
Yes.
What exactly are they doing?
That is a guardrail replacement project. The guardrails along the road, I apologize.
That's okay. You're an important person. We know.
The guardrails along the road are deteriorating, and the road shoulder there is deteriorating. So we have to go in and replace much of the guardrail along there. The good news is it shouldn't be too much longer till it's done, probably another week to 2, and they'll be done and out of there. But it is a convenience, and we were able to keep it open in one direction, but it doesn't help you at all when you're going the other direction. So.
Especially when your smart car is not charged.
Uh-oh.
Yes, that can be frustrating, I'm sure.
I was like, am I going to make it home last week? What are the other big ones? I know that you guys didn't have anything to do with 75 because that's a state road, but does that impact the county at all?
Well, it does. Both the big construction project that's going on there and the tanker fire we had 2 weeks ago now, both of those direct a bunch more traffic onto county roads. So our roads are carrying a lot more traffic. The good news is the traffic signals on our roads are almost all smart signals that automatically adjust the timing of the signals to accommodate whatever traffic's there. So when you dump a lot more traffic onto the parallel roads, such as when we have the tanker fire, our traffic signals automatically give a lot more green to that parallel traffic. But by the same token, when you reach a saturation level, all the green light in the world is not going to help if your road is over capacity at that time. So it certainly is making things more congested, and with construction project that'll continue to be the case till the project is done. that's the biggest impact on us of the I-75 work.
Again, Craig Bryson with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Senior Communications Manager for the Oakland County Road Commission. And Craig, you just mentioned about the smart traffic lights. When it comes to technology in the world of road construction, how do you research what is going on and know what to implement, and can it be implemented? Because I would think that there's new technology out there for you to, take advantage of.
That's a great question, and that's something that we're extremely interested in. For the last 30 years, we've been one of the leading local road agencies in the nation when it comes to technology. We work closely with the Federal Highway Administration, which is almost unheard of for a county-level road agency. We work closely with the auto industry, which fortunately is in our backyard here, to coordinate for the coming fully smart vehicles. But we are very involved in state organizations, national organizations, the Transportation Research Board, which is the academic branch of federal government that leads tremendous amounts of research. We're very involved in there. We lead a number of TRB, committees. Our engineers are very connected to engineers around the country that are involved in this kind of thing, and locally to the auto industry, both the supplier and the original manufacturers, the big three, Toyota as well, Nissan. We've done numerous test projects to test some of the new communications between the vehicle and the infrastructure. We're really on the cutting edge of that kind of stuff. That's one aspect. I mean, there's also a lot of new technology in the construction side. We have our contractors are now using GPS paving machines. It used to be you'd have to run a string line down the side of the road that would guide the paving machine, and some of them still do that. Now it's GPS. They set the coordinates, and the machine drives itself along that line, gets a perfectly aligned pavement. So I mean, there's new technology in all aspects of this industry, and it's really a fascinating thing.
I've always wondered how they get the line so straight, because every once in a while you'll see where there's like a little curve, but for the most part they are very straight.
They are, and hopefully there'll be fewer of those curves with less of the string line guidance these days.
So with that, Craig, we know that so much of your funding comes from the gas tax. What is the conversation right now as the push is on for more electric vehicles?
Right, that's a great question too, and we've been in that discussion for years as well. Most of the legislators that we talk to acknowledge that something has got to change. They did in 2015 when they enacted the most recent state road funding package. They did increase the annual fee for electric and hybrid vehicles to help pay for the roads they drive on. But there's got to be more. I think eventually what you'll see, and this is kind of the national movement now, is something called MBUF, or mileage-based user fees, where you actually pay a fee per mile driven rather than a tax per gallon of fuel you purchase. So regardless of what kind of engine you have in your vehicle, what's driving your vehicle, you're paying for the mile you use the roads, which is really about the fairest way to do it, I think, and probably what's coming, maybe not for another 10 years, but I think you'll see a lot of discussion on the national level in coming years about that, and the technology is there to do it today, so it could be easily done.
Craig Bryson with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Senior Communications Manager for the Road Commission for Oakland County. And I was thinking today as I was driving along that stretch of Orchard Lake Road with all the road construction, I don't even want to call them barrels, because now you have the new barrels that are little skinny ones. It's
right.
like road construction barrels have gone on a diet. What is the budget for road construction barrels? Because it seems like everywhere you go in Michigan, you see orange everywhere. Like you can't get from here to a grocery store without hitting some type of road construction. So what's your budget, and how many of these come up missing every year? Not that I have one in my garage for Halloween. I don't know where.
I was going to say we've seen on social media platforms many people dressing up as road construction icons in road barrels. But actually, believe it or not, we don't buy many barrels. We require our contractors to provide the barrels, so it's part of their operating costs for us. So we don't have a line item for orange barrels, believe it or not. But I can guarantee you there are a lot of orange barrels purchased out there.
I mean, they do make great for memes, right? Like all the road construction. The fact that there's even an emoji for road construction, it immediately comes up with the little emoji for you if you put road construction.
Absolutely, and we've abused the iconic barrel many times in our own social media and communications efforts.
Craig Bryson with us here on the MegaCast. Craig, just another minute or two with you. Anything, and maybe I didn't ask you because I'm just rambling here this morning, that you want to add?
Well, there is a real interesting potential project coming up, or it's going to be a project. What it looks like is the potential part in your area. Orchard Lake Road from Middle Belt Road to Commerce Road. We are looking at the possibility of reconfiguring that road. It's a 4-lane road right now, 2 lanes in either direction, no center left turn lane. We've got a lot of rear end collisions there because there is no turn lane and people stop in the through lane. So we're looking at potentially changing that to what we call an unbalanced 4-lane road, where there'll be a center turn lane, two lanes in one direction and 1 lane in the other direction, which is a much safer format. We've surveyed the community to see what the public thinks about that. We're talking to the local communities along that road right now. But that's going to be built one way or another in 2023, and that's kind of an interesting, exciting opportunity, something we've never done before. So something to watch for in the future.
So that's the one that we did the survey on, right?
Correct.
Okay, because I did go back and change my, my survey after we talked to you the last time. But once again, you're like, oh, the first time. So we get to be the guinea pigs, is what you're saying.
Yes, there are some in other places. Just we have not done them. Wayne County has done them. There is actually a small section of unbalanced road in the city of Pontiac as well. So they're around, just not on road commission roads in Oakland County.
So is this something that could also be switched depending on the traffic? I think I've seen that like way out in Brighton or somewhere, and I always get confused.
Right. No, this would not switch. This would be permanently striped. But I know what you're talking about. There have been cases where they do move based on the traffic flow, yes. This is not one of those.
Okay. So regular people like me can handle it.
And me.
I'll be able to navigate it. It's like that section of Troy. Sure. I'm like, every time I go through that intersection, I'm like, I can't. I don't know. I take the other roadway. Craig Bryson with us, Senior Communications Manager, Road Commission for Oakland County. Craig, great to have you with us. I know the last time we talked, still hiring, right?
Yes, absolutely.